Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. It's 1 minute past 12 over in Eastern time zone. So good afternoon to you, and good late morning to the rest of you in Mountain Time. We have a special episode today where we don't normally schedule at this time, but our guest is a very, very busy guest. So we definitely took whatever availability he had, and today is what worked out. He's not here in the lobby just yet, but we'll definitely make sure that we pay attention, and he should be here soon. They do have the link, and they confirmed this morning that they're good to go. So did you guys catch the show this morning? The Coots 4. Some good information came out over the weekend. Granny provided some more details about what was happening inside. We don't have any of the actual information on what's happening in the sealed application, but we do know that some weird things have happened. I think his name is Scott. Steve was the Crown attorney who was not there on Thursday, and something's going on around him. So do check the previous episode to see what was going on, and you'll get more information about some oddities with the Coots 4. But today, what we're going to be talking about for this special episode is we're meeting with Josh Alexander, the young man who's out there with the red Save Canada hat and his group and his pals, standing up for Canada, standing up for what they believe in, doing some amazing things, marching in Ottawa, and standing up against his own school. So we'll get into all of that. But I'm really looking forward to this episode. It was a special episode, wasn't really planned until Canada Day. How this all happened was late on Canada Day. I was reaching out to a bunch of people to be on the show. And then one of them, who's a guest on in a couple of weeks, Bethan, she reached out to me. She says, "Hey, I got Josh here. Can we come on?" And I said, "I'm so sorry. I just ended the stream. However, can we talk to Josh about coming on?" And one thing led to another, and we managed to get him in for today. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to grab the invite link and make sure I can send it to his people and just give them a little bit of a poke that we're ready to go. I don't see them in the lobby yet, but there is Josh. Hello, buddy. And then there is the person that works with him. I'll send the link and say ready now. And I'll also send a quick little reminder text. Now, I know he's super busy, so there's a good chance he's just going to be a few minutes late, just as we've seen him with the other guests, but there's no indication that he's not coming. We have all indications that he is coming. So let me just fire one little text. Ready when you guys are. Ready when you are. Link in Twitter DM. Like, I can't imagine being his age and doing all this stuff, being so active and being so much in demand. He's doing interviews all over the place, and he's still a student. He's still, working out his life and what he's going to be doing with stuff. So I really appreciate them taking the time for this interview. Are you guys familiar with Josh? Maybe what we'll do is, while we're waiting, we'll get ourselves a little bit familiar with Josh and see if I can find that one video. Alexander, student. He's awesome. I can't believe how young he is too, and he's very active. Like, if you know this show, we've also spoken to Students Against Mandates in Manitoba, Lee Vosen and others, and they're doing the same type of thing. They're working really hard as students to get the word out and fight for what they believe is right. Now, the Students Against Mandates were for the mask and vaccine stuff, and Josh kind of broke onto the scene because of a washroom being added to his Christian school. So we'll see what that's about. I want him to explain that to us. But in the meantime, I'm going to see if I can find a video. Here we go. Yes, found it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this little video. It's about 3 minutes, and it'll give you a little bit of background on who Josh is. And then I'll come right back. And in the meantime, I'll go check my text and see how we're doing with that. But there we go. And here we go. One moment.
On a normal Thursday morning in February, Josh Alexander would be getting ready for school. But not today.
Yeah, no, I'm getting ready for Tucker Carlson.
But there is a way for Josh Alexander to get back in the class, but it's something he's not prepared to do.
I would have to basically agree to a multitude of conditions that are contrary to my religious beliefs. We would basically have to recognize that anybody can identify as they wish, and that anybody else must identify them or address them in that manner. And I'm also not, I wouldn't be allowed to mirror any trans students. I wouldn't be allowed to speak to them. I wouldn't be allowed to be in my classes. Yeah, there's not really a way for me to go back.
In the classroom, Josh Alexander feels that he's talking about the overall issue and not the individuals. As a born-again Christian and as somebody with freedoms in a country that has freedoms, Josh Alexander has some very strong views on this subject, but they're views that many people don't want to hear.
Everything first erupted in a class debate, and that debate, you basically have it. That's what I said. And then it went beyond that over time, where it got to teachers like encouraging and defending male breastfeeding and stuff, and I openly called that pedophilia. And that was another allegation against me, but the main one is that I said there's two genders and there's trans students in the class that considered that bullying.
This teacher in Oakville wearing the prosthetic.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? That teacher's allowed to teach and was in yesterday, and you're not allowed to go to school.
Yeah, there's actually several memes going around right now on the internet showing me getting arrested, and then it shows the Oakville teacher that's standing there, and they're allowed in the school and I'm not. It's pretty ridiculous. They're allowed to have an influential role, and I'm not allowed to go there just to simply get an education. That problem's going to follow me no matter which school I go to. I've already done it. My goal isn't to preach hate at anybody. I'm just, like you said, a student that wants to go to school, but I'm not going to compromise my religious beliefs. My issue was never with the individual trans student. In fact, I have some sympathy for them. My issue is with the education system that pushes it and indoctrinates impressionable minds.
The bottom line in Canada is that we have a thing called free speech. Josh Alexander, it must be remembered, is a teenager, just like Greta Thunberg is a teenager. Let him go back to school. At the same time, debate him and let him debate back. After all, this is a free country. For the Toronto Sun, I'm Joe Warmington.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, that's how that went down. He was at school. He didn't like something that was going on. The school's pushing it down, and he stood up to it. And like Josh says, he has nothing against the student himself, or I don't even know who the student is, but he doesn't have anything against the student. He has sympathy for the student, and I understand that one. I totally understand that one because of our faith and stuff, and I think Josh will get into this. We have lots of empathy for people who are suffering, who are lost, who are confused, who are in pain. We have lots of empathy for people like that. And of course, even people who are students that are confused about their gender, we have sympathy for them as well, and empathy. So I think that's probably where he's going with that. So I get that. Excuse me, folks. I just have something in my throat. Azario, you're first. Hollow, folks. Hollow, folks. And by the way, I got a text back. Yes, they are aware. Yes, they're thumbs up. So just let them get ready, and we'll pop them on as soon as they show up. But hello, Azario. How are you doing, buddy? And then won't take the chip. You're talking about like an implanted chip. You're not into that? You're not talking about Pringles, right? Or Lay's or anything. You're talking about the chip. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, and good morning. So you might be more the west side than the east side. So nice to have you here. Thank you. And by the way, I love the hat with the flags and the poppy. That's a good setup there. Hey, Lynn, how you doing? Afternoon from the East Coast, all the way, Nova Scotia. Welcome, Lynn. Thank you very much for joining us. Hey, Hannah. You've become quite the regular. Thank you very much for coming. And one of the things I liked most about you is you keep it real. So when you thought we were going too long on a particular subject, you give us a heads up. Thank you for that. And then when you weren't enjoying a particular episode, you let us know. Thank you for that. Those are super, super valuable, Hannah. So do keep them coming. I prefer the truth over anything else. And it's helping us adapt and understand how to bring this show to you. So Hannah, thank you very much for that. And you're in a good mood too. That's awesome. Lynn, yes, everybody's happy. Good stuff. And then Calvin saying, finally catching one of these on time, LOL. Yeah, like I'm either really early for some people or a little close to dinner or something. You can always replay. The only thing you miss is the live chat, but the content's still good. It stays fresh. We have a long shelf life with a lot of these guests. So thank you very much, Calvin, for being here live and enjoying it live with us. Hannah knows men's in the ladies' washroom. So it's a birth gender male, I guess, is who's transitioning, but we'll get the details. But in either case, this is a ridiculous thing, Hannah, 100% in the schools, in public, and everywhere. There's just two sexes, all right? And gender is the language version of the sexes, so we should only have two of those. Calvin, won't take the chip, says, I hear you, Calvin. I watch all recorded interviews, but always great to be involved in the lives. Are you serious? Thank you so much for catching up on all the previous episodes. I appreciate that. And if you're using YouTube for it, I won't take the chip. I did upload most of the episodes that we missed during the week that we were suspended. But there's also a couple episodes like Chris Guy and Dr. Mackes and Morgan May with Paul Westhaven. Those are not on YouTube because they contain too much truth for YouTube. So you will have to find those on Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, or another platform. So if you're catching up on some of the older ones, won't take the chip, head over to Rumble because there's a few episodes there that you won't find on YouTube. And Hannah says, school is just propaganda these days. Homeschool. Yep, we do. Hannah, we do. We homeschool. So we have a 6 and an 8-year-old, and they're wonderful children. They're doing great. They are excelling past all the expectations for their age and for their curriculum. And they're wonderful little guys. And I kind of brought them on at the end of the Canada Day special. So if you want to see my Jacob and my JJ, the little faces popped up for a bit there. But yeah, we homeschool as well. And I think a lot of people should be homeschooling. And I think it's my understanding that Josh was homeschooled until couple years or a year or so at the end for the I'm in the stream, says Josh or Jay Alexander. Josh, if that's you, I don't see you here, so I'm in the studio. Just got to add me. Josh, you may have the wrong link or something, so because you're not in my studio. So let me just send it to you guys again, and I'll put it into your YouTube, Josh. So if you're in the chat there, go to your Twitter. It's sitting in your inbox right now. So yeah, let's get you on here. I don't see you in my studio. So I just sent you a link in your Twitter and we'll get you on here, Josh. Sorry about that, bud. Thank you for putting it in the chat and we'll get you on. I met Jason in January when moving to my mom's into long-term care in near town where he lives. You met me? I would like to know who you are then. That'd be kind of cool if we've crossed paths before. Absolutely. But yeah, Josh, you're not in this studio. Sorry, bud. Do check your Twitter for that other link. I may have sent you might be using the Canada Day link, which is old. So do go check your. Oh, there he is. We found it. Hello, Josh.
How's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on. And I'm sorry if that link I sent you earlier didn't work right away, but I guess you found it, so we're good now.
Yeah. I was watching for a good 15 minutes.
Oh, cool. So hopefully you were happy with what I said, and then you can kind of clue us in on more of the actual details, because I'm trying to just piece together on what's out there in the media as well. First, I just want to say thank you so much for making time in your schedule. You are the hardest person to get on this show because you're super busy and in high demand. Even Jeremy McKenzie was easier to get, and Maxime Bernier. But thank you very much for your time, okay? So
yeah, no worries.
We're going to utilize it, and we're going to get right to it. So first of all, how old are you? 16, 17 now?
17 now.
And all of this started off when you were 16, so not too long ago.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for that, and I do appreciate that. So, I normally have many, many decades to talk to people about, but you're just a young man, and you're a very impressive young man. Were you homeschooled?
Yes, I was homeschooled from the beginning up until grade 7, and then at that point I decided to enter the public education system. And then from there, I left and went into the Catholic system.
So you were about 12, 13 when you entered the school system?
I guess so. whatever
Around that
grade
grade
7
7.
is.
Yeah,
It's all a blur
So
now.
for sure, especially with all the excitement happening in the last year or so. So prior to that, when you were homeschooled, is your mom a teacher, and did you have other family members, like siblings, with you, or is it just you?
Well, yeah, no, I have several siblings. Both my parents are teachers, but for the most of my upbringing, my mom was a stay-at-home, and she taught most of us.
Wonderful. So how many siblings do you have? You don't have to name or age them. I'm just
I
curious.
have three other siblings.
And they're older?
One younger, two older.
Okay, so you're right in the middle. That's cool. And you live in Ontario?
Yeah, that's correct.
About Eastern Ontario, whereabouts? You don't have to
Yeah.
pinpoint it.
I'm in Cobden, Ontario. I got kicked out of I was going to school in the Renfrew County, at St. Joseph's Catholic High, and now I don't. So
Okay. So you entered public school grade 7, and then you went and moved over to the Catholic school grade 8, 9, 10, something like that?
yeah, well, no, I would have. So I was in the public system from grade 7 till the end of grade 10,
Okay.
and
So
that's where
junior high?
yeah. So what happened is I was in the public board during the mandates and whatnot. Me and Monty Walker, I'm sure you've now seen with me a lot, we were in the public board together, and we organized student walkouts against the mandates and whatnot. And that ended up getting the cops called on us nonstop at school. We're getting kicked out every week, and we ended up, like, we didn't stop. We didn't quit until the mandates were gone and the year was over. But at the end of it, I decided, okay, it's time to actually get more serious about education now that we have all these distractions out of the way. And yeah, so I switched to the Catholic board, and it didn't go as planned.
Okay, so there's actually 2 times that you were protesting or advocacy. So there was in your first school where it was mandates, so masks and vaccines and stuff like that was the first push.
Yeah.
And then did you get arrested, did you say, during those parts too, or kicked out of school for some of that?
I was never arrested at that point.
Okay.
Not at like, I had a couple run-ins like during the convoy and stuff where I got detained, but well, actually not even the convoy. There was a couple protests in Ottawa where the police would crack down, and I had been detained before, but nothing serious. I had no charges, nothing. It was just because Canada at that time didn't like anybody who was peacefully demonstrating, right? But
Right.
no, in the public board, the police actually stood up for us. My principal was calling the cops and trying to get us. I don't know what he wanted, but he didn't want us running these protests, and the police had to inform him what the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was. He actually had no idea.
That's impressive that the police actually stood up for you on this one, because we've heard many reports where the police are overstepping their boundaries as well, and we could get into some of the Saskatchewan stuff we saw just the last couple of weeks. But I'm actually very happy to hear that the police were doing what they should be doing, which is educating people who are making complaints on what the law is and what their restrictions are, including the charter. So that's good news. But it sounds to me like even your principal was kind of harassing you by including the police and stepping into the situation. Now, when the police came in and educated your principal on the law, did that actually help? Were you able to protest at that time?
Well, at no point did the school ever facilitate those protests. They tried to claim they did, and they were very manipulative in the way that they'd argue and whatnot, but they never facilitated them. It was always at risk of suspension or worse. And they would threaten to suspend all the kids that joined me. I would go in, I'd negotiate for hours out of class, talking with the principals about these. They asked us to go out the back door when we protested, and protest behind the school so nobody would see it. They wanted to keep our masks on while we did it, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it was only a couple of us that would end up getting suspended because we'd take the fall for the rest of the students. And yeah, they ended up being quite successful at our school. But then we decided to start organizing them across the province, and then it ended up spreading across the country. So that was a very successful wave that really put us on the media for a bit, and that played into what happened in the Catholic board later on.
Very cool. So have you met Lee Vossen or the Students Against Mandates team in Manitoba?
I haven't met them, but I have, or not that I know of. I just spent quite a bit of time in Manitoba, but I may have crossed paths with them. But I have done a few interviews with them and whatnot, and I know Camille Batucci.
Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. Because I was just gonna say, if you didn't know them, I'd hook you up because they definitely probably want to talk to you. But it sounds like you guys are connected on a Camille level at least. That's pretty cool. And I love your shirt. So you had the Alex Cabana interview
Yeah.
not too long ago. And why don't you go ahead and tell me about that? Because I was on just on Thursday as well.
Oh,
He's
really?
a nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was that for you to sit down with a vet like that who's out there getting the message? Yeah, go ahead and tell me what that interview was like for you.
Yeah, no, he's a guy that I have a lot of respect for and a lot of room for. I actually asked to go on his show, and we went down to his place. We had about, I think it was like a 2-hour interview or something. It went for quite a while, but yeah, it was interesting to get to talk to him on camera there, because me and him were like side by side the entire June 9th protest, which got quite a bit of media and is continuing to stir up the CBC and whatnot. But yeah, it was certainly a good interview.
Yeah, he's a great guy too. Good service from him, and he was there for the convoy, helping out around the memorial and stuff like that. So, and I'll have him on my show on July 10th and give an interview to him as well. So maybe you'll tune into that one as well. All right, so you're having trouble with the principal. They said go protest in the backyard so nobody can see you. Make sure you wear a mask because we care about your safety. And now, when you were getting into that, what was your catalyst for standing up? Was it your faith? Was it your understanding of science? Was it your understanding that the media is just a bunch of hogwash? What was your catalyst to say, no, I'm not cool with this and I'm going to stand up?
Well, I mean, it really didn't take much. You look at our society, and especially my generation. Just look at the degeneracy and filth in it, and then I saw that it was all that degeneracy compiled with the fact that none of these kids were now allowed to see each other. Their lives were like ripped apart because of a totalitarian state's dictate. But I saw the effect it was having on my peers, and I had enough of it, and I knew somebody had to do something, and I also knew that nobody else in my area would. So yeah, we did some. It started with a couple of walkouts. It actually started with 4 people. We did a protest, and then, like I said, by the end of it, we had students across the country joining us.
So when the adults in the room, I'm assuming your teachers were pushing the agenda a bit, and certainly your principal was. So your first encounter, when you did your first walkout, was it for masks? And they were saying you have to wear a mask, and that's when you walked out, or what was the straw that broke the camel's back there?
Yeah, that was it was regarding all the mandates and all the restrictions and rules there, but masks was obviously the most obvious one. But yeah, the staff members were brutal. It was pretty remarkable to watch how far our grades dropped. Anybody who partook in the protests, our grades would just plummet after we did this. And it wasn't because we were spending less time in class. A protest is like 1 class a week. And like, you're really not out there long. You're not missing anything, especially in the public education system. But yeah, our grades would just plummet, and it was obviously blatant discrimination.
As a young man who had it put into his head early that bullies are bad people and stand up to bullies and let's make sure that we don't let the bullies win, what was it doing to you to understand that these adults are now bullies and are bullying you and some other students? Did you recognize it that way, or did you kind of realize later that you're being bullied by these adults?
Oh, I immediately recognized it. It's typical virtue signaling. I mean, the education system is one of the most woke places you'll find. So yeah, it was no surprise to see them respond like that. And they do it in the most patronizing and just ridiculous way
Condescending. Yeah, for sure. They can be quite rude. and I went through the generation where they were teaching us how not to be bullies, and that was like the main message, because I'm like a few generations before you. But back then it was to make sure we treat everybody with respect and honesty and compassion even. And we were certainly doing that to a certain group of people, but everybody else doesn't appear that they're getting that same privilege anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
So you said enough with this. This school is hiding the fact that we want to protest. They're making it difficult. My grades are going down, and you're a very faith-based person. I just touched on that a little bit there. So you believe in God, and you do the church, and you do that, and same here. But which one are you, and how strong is your faith?
Yeah, I was at a Catholic school. Like I switched to a Catholic school, hoping that my views would align a little better there. But
Mhm.
I'm not. I'm personally not a Catholic. I'm a born again Christian,
Great.
and I wouldn't really consider myself a part of any denomination. I think those are kind of a silly man-made obstacle to keep people from the faith. And so yeah, I'm a Bible believing Christian.
All right, so that's what I was about to go to. So you took your faith, you said enough of the public system. Let's go over to the Christian school where you believe that at least faith will have some application there and possibly some sanity. And you went there, and guess what? You found out. So your first day there, is that where you found out about what was going on, or did that kind of happen after you got there? And go ahead and tell everybody what happened.
Yeah, no, my first 5 minutes into that school, I recognized there was a serious problem there. Um, I was the new kid in the class. Obviously, I had been in some media. I was fairly well known in the community amongst young people. Like, they didn't know a whole lot about me, but they knew of me. And there was a
Right.
lot of rumors about why I had left the last school and whether I'd been expelled or whatnot. It's just the way rumors fly. And
Mhm.
so, anyways, I was in my class there for my law class. First 5 minutes into this new school, new board, new everything, and the teacher starts going on about how the convoy was an unlawful um, assembly, and I said, "Wait a second, you're a law teacher. You should know very well that this hasn't even gone through the courts. You can't determine it unlawful." And it was a peaceful protest for 3 weeks. I was a witness there, and I said, "Don't lie to your students like that." And anyway, so that was the start of my little adventure there, and it only got worse and worse, and it got to the point where my teacher would kind of enjoy it, but it was always polite and respectful, but it would be nonstop debate between me and a couple of my teachers. Um, Even my math teacher, somewhat. My math class would just get derailed because he would make some sort of woke, absurd comment, and I would debate that. And it like My law class was probably the worst. It was just students went into that class knowing it would be an hour of me and the teacher debating. And anyways, it was within those debates that the comments were made about the transgender issue, where I quoted Mark 10:6 and said God created the male and female, and that obviously was a very sensitive topic. It became a heated argument because classmates were leaving their seats and shouting at me and stuff. Actually, my math teacher lost his composure and was freaking out about that one, and it was pretty childish all around. I was just sitting there watching it unfold simply because I quoted the scripture and stated the most obvious fact out there that we've
Mhm.
known for the entirety of humanity. Yeah, that was in October, I guess, when that debate really broke loose. And I took it to the office and I said, "Okay, some female students have approached me. They're concerned about males in their washrooms. This is a safety issue. It's a privacy issue. We need to do something about it." Anyways, I had multiple of those conversations. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. And it got to the point where they said, "We're no longer facilitating this discussion with you. Goodbye." And so anyways, at that point, I figured, well, we need to put this on the media then. It's the Catholic board, we're completely rejecting Catholic principles, Christian principles,
Mhm.
and putting females students in danger. So yeah, I decided to organize a protest, which I mean it worked. It got quite a bit of media on it, but not in the way that I would have thought.
All right. So the protest happened. Did you get a lot of support from the student body, or were there a lot of people who were against you? I suspect some support, but was it 50-50? Did most people dislike it? Kind of what was your take on that?
Well, at the beginning, it was looking like it was going to be a very big protest. I was vocalizing what other students wanted to say, didn't know how to say, and were afraid to say.
Mhm.
And they resonated with that, at least quite a few of them. And it wasn't just on that topic; it was on quite a number of topics that just nobody else would touch. Um,
Right.
but I've always been a man of principle. I think it's important that we don't compromise our values because of something as simple as a high school education. Sure, it sucks and there's going to be risks, but to me, it's more important that we maintain dignity and self-respect. So I would engage in those topics, and especially more important is that the students get the truth out of what's going on. And so yeah, quite a few students were going to join us, but by the end of the day on November 23rd, I had received a letter telling me that I was suspended with the possibility of expulsion, and I was out until further notice. So while I was kicked out there, they took the last 2 days before the protest to go around to classes and intimidate students and tell them it would ruin their reputations if they were seen with me. They wouldn't get bussed home, and there were there were other threats that I still haven't validated, but I've heard from students that there was some pretty ridiculous stuff that got said to students. So what was looking to be quite a big protest ended up being about 15 students coming out to join me. However, there was over 100 counter protesters bussed in. There was unions there. There's about maybe 60, 70 community members on my end came out to support me. So it certainly put St. Joe's on the map there. And yeah, it was I continued just under suspension for 20 school days until I was welcomed back. Yeah, they had my welcome back meeting and told me that I was allowed to come back under the condition that I didn't attend math class or religion class, and I wasn't allowed to speak to certain students, among other conditions. And I said I didn't agree to that. And I told them I would be attending my classes like usual. And yeah, I expected not to be discriminated against. In response to that, they gave me a exclusion order, and they said that they felt my presence in the building would be detrimental to the physical and mental well-being of the pupils. So that was the quote from their letter there, and I was kicked out, and I've still been under that same exclusion notice for quite a while. But it got to the point where I had now failed 4 classes. The semester was over. We're going into a new semester, new classes, new everything. And I said to my lawyer, look, I've done nothing wrong. I don't understand why I'm going to sit out yet another semester and lose even more of my education. I think I should, and it's also setting a bad example for other students. They know I've done nothing wrong, and I'm still sitting here at home. So I said, I'm going to return. And they had, like, my exclusion notice had like my suspension had expired, and so had my trespassing notice. So technically I should have been able to go back, but so we contacted the school, and they said, okay, Josh is returning. He expects to not be discriminated against. He's going to continue to adhere to his religious beliefs, and yeah, see you soon. In response to that, they gave me yet another exclusion notice, which I eventually disregarded. I felt by complying with it, I'd be condoning it. So I attended my class, and it was at that point that I got pulled out of the classroom, put in the office where the principal stood in front of the exit and waited for some Ontario Provincial Police to arrive, who then arrested me.
Oh, so the OPP arrested you. Okay, that's right. That will be your jurisdiction. Now, what was the charge? Trespass, or what was the charge that they put on you?
Yeah, the police gave me a trespassing charge. There were some complications with what the principal was saying there. He told me that I had then had all my classes stripped of me, and yeah, he said a bunch of ridiculous stuff, which still makes no sense to me. But yeah, they gave me a trespassing charge. And I ended up being released not too long after that. Well, released until about a day later, where I was back in police custody again.
For the same thing, for going back, or something different?
No. So this time the Ottawa police took me into custody because we were me, my brother, and Monty Walker had a pre-planned counter protest outside the Drake Queen Storytime at the National Arts Center in Ottawa, which was February 8th. I got arrested at school February 6th. So when I went down to Ottawa, we were outside the National Arts Center street preaching, and just bringing awareness to how wrong what was happening inside that building was. And we got swarmed by a crowd of, I don't know, maybe 200 counter protesters. And yeah, the police ran in there and eventually arrested me and my brother, and gave me a bunch of charges, or arrested me on a bunch of charges, and then had to call and apologize and say it was a mistake and whatnot. So that's something we see quite a bit from the Ottawa police. They like to throw out bogus charges, and then when the cameras are gone, they drop them.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, was any of the counter protesters arrested for any of their activities?
There was one counter protester that hit a police officer that got arrested, but nobody that attacked us.
Oh, wow. So they're there protecting the counter protesters unless the counter protesters touch a police officer. Now, is this the same one where they lowered the blinds, or is that a different one where they
That was just last Wednesday. They just they did actually the same drag queen story time with the same transvestites, and we went back yet again. It was we communicated more with the police, and it was just a lot better set up. And I commend the Ottawa police for their work on Wednesday. But we had footage of what was going on in there, and it was inappropriate to be done in front of kids. It was perverted, and while JC Media was filming there, they decided to lower the blinds, which I think was even worse optics than the grown man in a dress gyrating in front of children.
100%, because now they're telling everybody we want some privacy because this is not good enough for you to capture. Now, if you're going to capture it, what are they afraid of if it's all innocent and just fun?
Exactly.
What are they worried about? If they're going to go behind closed blinds and closed doors, because I'm assuming you weren't allowed in there to go ahead and film and watch what's going on.
I've been in one of the drag queen story times. I got kicked out and the police ended up dragging me out, but...
All right. So you're a student, you're youth, you're in there to check out the Storytime Hour, but because you are not affirming and you're not applauding the performance, they'll take you out. Were you protesting at that time, or are you just not there to?
No, I was attending one. I wanted to see what was happening. I took my paraphernalia off. There was a protest outside, but I took it off. I left it all behind. I said, I want to go see the drag queen story time. It's for kids, is it not? And so I tried to attend. They recognized me. Security came and got me while I was talking to security.
Sorry if that's my end. Okay, so on my end, his froze. It might be me. So if you guys can still hear me, I'm just... Oh, you're back. I think you're moving again. Can you hear me now there, Josh?
Yep. Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think we lost a second or two there. So what I last heard was you were talking to security, your youth in there, you wanted to check it out, and then they pulled you out. Did they give you a reason why they wanted you to leave that Storytime Hour?
They said I wasn't welcome there at the inclusive drag queen story time.
Right. So maybe the performer or the host or some other people said he makes me uncomfortable, and that was enough to get you out of there?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate because that's what I'm encouraging people to do, to go and be a witness. Oh, sorry, you'll come right back. There we go. Yeah, sorry about that. I think we have a small connection issue. And that's unfortunate because that's what I'm encouraging people to do, is to go be a witness at these events. You don't go inside to protest or they're just going to throw you right out, but you also don't go in there and affirm it. You just you just witness it. So I applaud you for doing that on your own, because I think we need a lot more people to do exactly that. It's people like you who are there. First, you're going to take up some space, which is good because they can only have so much space. But you also will be able to witness if anything's illegal or criminal. Now, for the time that you were in that one, how far along did you get before they kicked you out? Was it like immediately, or did you get to see any of the performance?
I didn't see any of the performance. I saw the inappropriate attire that the performers were wearing, but I was removed at the entrance of the event.
Okay, well, thank you for trying to get in there, because it's important that people get in there and do that. So thank you for that. Now, at the Catholic school, we just got into the whole, you went into the law school. Immediately, they're talking about the protest in Ottawa being illegal. I just want to say for the record, not a single illegal occupation charge on a single person in that entire event. And there was also no violence, and there was no destruction. We had all of that come out in the POEC. So to that law teacher that said all of that stuff, brush up on your law, my friend. You're very wrong on that. So there was a male to female trans person in that school, or was there even a trans person in that school? I think there was.
There was Quite a few. I don't even question what they were. I mean, I was accused of bullying, yet I never even talked to them. So,
Right.
um,
There's a few
I
of them?
don't. Oh, there was quite a multitude of confused kids. What they identified as or what they thought they were, I have no idea, nor do I care.
Okay. No, fair
But
enough.
I know there was biological males using female washrooms, and there were several of them doing so. So that was enough for me to say something.
Okay, cool. So you had some female students come up to you in private and tell you, "Look, I'm uncomfortable with this. This worries me." And of course it would. This is a safe space for females. And then you took that to the school. You got a protest started. Then you got expelled. Well, first you got that warning, and then they actually gave you the exclusionary order. And then you came back, got another one, and then got arrested for trespassing. Is that kind of the order of events so far?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. And you haven't been back to the school at all since? Like, have you been doing remote learning or any type of learning since?
I've had no form of education since November.
Well, you've got the street education. You're getting a good education outside of the school. I'll tell you that.
That's true.
Especially with politics and advocacy. So, are you trying to get into another school for the next year? Because I guess school's done now for you or for everybody. Are you trying to enroll somewhere else?
So no, at this point, I'm still enrolled at the Catholic Board because they've never expelled me, right? They put me under an indefinite exclusion order. So yeah, that'll probably run into next year. But I have no idea that's going to end up looking like. But I'm still fighting in court to be able to attend class.
Wow. So you have legal fees on this then. So you're not getting assistance. Yeah, of course you wouldn't. So you'd have to hire your own lawyer to fight this. Are you? Go ahead.
Liberty Coalition Canada has decided to take on my case with the school. So they're helping me with this whole appeal at the school and then also a human rights complaint.
Wonderful. I'm really glad they're stepping up for that because, of course, they should. That's what they're there for. Now, are you going for an injunction or do you have a motion to dismiss the exclusionary order? Or what's the mechanism that you guys are trying to do in court?
Yeah, so the way it works is any kid gets a suspension, you're able to appeal that suspension. And then there will be a hearing and whatnot. And you try to determine whether it was worthy of suspension, whether that should stay on the student record, and whether, in my case, they should be allowed to attend class again. Now, the interesting thing is I'm not even under a disciplinary suspension. I'm under a non-disciplinary exclusion, which means I've done nothing wrong, but they just don't want me to attend class because they don't they feel like something could happen if I were to theoretically attend class. So it's a pretty weak argument they have, but I'm trying to appeal these suspensions on my own because I don't feel that my parents should be involved in this at all. I'm a young man. I made decisions for myself. They recognize that. I recognize that. My lawyer recognizes that. And so that's why I've withdrawn from parental control and I'm trying to appeal these suspensions. They're refusing to recognize that I've withdrawn from parental control, so they won't even give me my right to appeal my suspensions. So right now we're fighting in the Ontario Court of Appeal to give me the right to appeal my suspensions. And then once we do that, we'll be able to, it'll be another complicated process of going through all these suspension hearings and whatnot. And then the bigger picture is the human rights complaint, which has already been filed.
Right. And you do understand that the penalty is the process. Like they're taking you through this as a penalty. You're being penalized right now, even though you haven't been found to have done anything wrong. Yeah, no, I'm sorry about that. Now, I'm curious on this exclusionary order based on future potential issues. So what was the wording around there? Was there complaints specifically by anybody saying, I feel like that I'm threatened by this person's presence? Or was it just a general statement saying the entire school feels like this is what we want to say about you and we're not comfortable with you here? No,
it was a decision made by the principal and probably
so it's not even
the board.
Based on, so it's not even based on
sure
a complaint by an individual.
I'm sure they've received complaints. Like I know they took kids out of class and were interrogating them. And there's some kids that I know for a fact did not appreciate my presence too much. But they interrogated kids. And I know there was a group of girls in the school that went to the office to have me suspended, like before I was even kicked out. So I don't know. Like I know there was definitely kids that didn't like what I have to say. The truth hurts people, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, so they have got complaints, but that's not why I'm kicked out. I'm kicked out because of that quote I gave you earlier, which is they felt my presence in the building would be
Right.
detrimental to the physical and mental well-being of the pupils. So that's staff and students they're talking about, and they think I could be a physical threat or mental threat, whatever the heck that means.
Wow. So do you even want to go back to this school? Like, I know you should do your appeal. You should get all that stuff overturned so that actually clears that up. But do you actually want to go back to this school if, the Court of Appeals opens that door for you?
I mean, I would consider it. I'm obviously fighting to get back to class right now. I don't know if I'd stay there for the entire grade. Like obviously a lot has changed since my original
Mhm.
appeal, but I'm certainly going to fight for the right to be able to attend class, and
Right.
we'll see where that takes me.
Yeah, yeah. Don't give it up. Even if you don't plan to return, continue that so that you can set that precedence so that the next person, they can point to that if someone tries to harass them in the same way. So keep up that fight. But I'm concerned that they're impacting your education on purpose here. So I hope that you can find a way to get around that as well. Now, you've been involved in a couple other protests since that. You mentioned, I guess, two of them. You were at both of those Storytime Hour ones, one inside, one outside. And you're also doing a walk for James Top, Canada Day. You rewalked his path. Let's go ahead and talk about the James Top thing. First, when did you first hear about him? A convoy, probably the same as us. But what inspired you to go ahead and make that walk and that march to the memorial like he did?
Well, yeah, I heard about him basically when his march started, and I mean, obviously that takes a lot of grit and a lot of integrity, and I have a lot of personal respect for him. As I was saying earlier, you look at my generation; it's just a bunch of degeneracy, and there's no integrity or traditional masculinity, and that's a guy that I mean that is like you march a few miles with him, and it's there's just determination there, grit, as I say, and I respect him a lot, and I think he inspired a lot of Canadians, and he certainly inspired me. I had the opportunity to march with him for several days there, and then when June 30th came around, I thought, well, this man, he's been more court-martialed, and the country's kind of forgotten about what he did. So I decided to raise a bit of awareness to it. And his on June 30th last year, his final march was from Bell's Corners to the War Memorial. So me and a couple other guys, me, Monty, Adam, went to the Bell's Corners and started marching towards the memorial. It was about 30 kilometers by the end of it, and we had a young guy named Richard join us. He was I believe he was 13, and he just saw us doing a live stream with Veterans for Freedom and ran out onto the road, and ended up marching with us all the way to the War Memorial.
That's awesome. Are you going to do that every year? Are you going to make that an annual thing? Maybe we'll get a bigger and bigger crowd each time.
Yeah, we were talking about that. I guess we'll have to see where we're at next year, but I certainly think it's something that we need to keep going. We can't forget what happened there.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned a 13-year-old saw the live stream, ran outside and joined you. Are you seeing a lot of students and young people come up to you and say, hey, thanks for speaking on my behalf? I can't say this, but I'm glad you are. Are you getting support in that way from complete strangers?
Yeah, there is quite a bit of support. There's obviously a lot of negativity. I have crowds of adults follow me around wherever I go and yell at me or hit me or choke me and whatever. I mean, in Calgary, they even tried to set me on fire, but
Yeah, we'll get to Calgary in a moment.
yeah, but no, there's a lot of young people that resonate with my message, right? And they respect what I've done, and I appreciate all the support I'm getting from them. And when I go across the country, different schools, yeah, they come out, and sometimes in the hundreds, and it's encouraging to see.
That's wonderful. And by the way, this old guy I'm a supporter of you. I think what you're doing is wonderful, and I'm really sad to hear about the Calgary stuff. So let's go ahead and get into that. So I'm in Alberta, and I'm very shocked that our government is not protecting people a lot stronger than they are. I would expect a lot more from a conservative-led government. But you went down to Calgary to protest. I think there was a story time hour there as well.
No, so Liberty Coalition Canada, the guys providing me legal coverage at this point,
Yep.
organized an event, an international event, which took place in Austria, Germany, New Zealand, Australia, U.S., Canada, and it was called the I Stand with Josh Alexander event, and it was to raise awareness to what happened at my school. So, anyways, I was in Calgary at the time, and I thought, well, I'll go to a high school. And join this walkout because it's in my name. So I went to the Western Canada High School in Calgary, and there was already students in the field waiting to see me. I was on the sidewalk coming up, but there was also, I don't know, maybe 40 to 60 counter protesters there, and they pulled out. Well, I walked down the sidewalk, and they immediately started pushing me. I was able to get through and talk to some students, shook their hands. In all the chaos, they asked for some Bibles because I always make a point to bring Bibles and give them to students. And they were, so I was trying to communicate with them. They were trying to get around the gate and come get the Bibles. While that's happening, some BLM and Antifa, they were hitting me. We got punched. They hit Nathaniel. They hit Declan, some of the other guys in Calgary there. And they ended up grabbing the cross on my neck, and they tried to choke me with it. Taylor McNally thought it'd be a good idea to reach her hands down the back of my pants. Anyways, it was certainly an interesting experience. They were trying to throw us into traffic. They were burning Bibles, and one of them tried to set my polyester shirt on fire with the Bible, and I just looked at the guy. I was like, that's not gonna work. And sure enough, it went out. But yeah, it was very animalistic behavior coming from those individuals. But yeah, after about 4 minutes, the police came in. They watched all this happen, and they thought it'd be a good idea to arrest me. And then they put me in the back of a paddy wagon, and they're asking me about what scripture I was using, and all sorts of ridiculous questions. And I guess it was all because they wanted to see if I had violated a conflict bylaw regarding the alphabet community. And yeah, they ended up not being able to charge me with anything. They released me and told me if I returned, I would be arrested for breaching the peace. I talked to my lawyer. My lawyer talked to the police, and they said, "All right, so we'd encourage Josh to just leave now, and we won't have to talk again." And my lawyer said, "Okay, talk soon." And so I went back with Bibles, and I was at the light at the crosswalk there, waiting to get across and go back to the students who were outside the school. And while I was there, everybody just ran across the street and surrounded me again. So it was kind of like 2.0, but that time I had a lot more successful dialogue with students, and a lot of debates, a lot of students that had come out to support the Antifa, and then obviously quite a few supporters of mine, but it went both ways, and there was a lot more humane and less hostile the discussions that took place on that end of the road.
Do you think that was because maybe Taylor wasn't there anymore, or was she still there?
Yeah, no, after I got released, Taylor realized there was an issue, and she fled immediately. Turns out she actually fled the province. And after this went, like, it got 4 million views by the end of the day, right? Just on my Twitter. So there's also an election going on right now. So I think the police realized something serious needed to happen there. And it looked really bad on them. I had my hands in the air the entire time while being mobbed by adults, and then they arrested me. So they actually were the first time ever the police have worked properly with me and decided that they were going to press charges on several individuals. I requested that they don't use hate crime charges, but they ended up pressing those. Yeah, there was Taylor McNally was charged with 2 counts of assault, unlawful confinement, and sexual assault, and they were all hate motivated apparently. So that's how that went down.
Yeah, so here we got is an article about anti-racism protester. Nice title. Taylor McNally arrested in courtroom moments after assault conviction. So for something else, she was convicted on assault, and then she was picked up on June 15th, it looks like. And I guess these are the charges you're talking about here. So assault, sexual assault, and unlawful confinement as hate motivated. So these are you. Are they referring to you here?
Yeah, they're referring to me, and one of the assault charges was on my friend Nathaniel Pulowski.
And then, oh, it's like Arthur's son?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'll be talking to his dad soon. The sexual assault, that's the hand down the pants?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't
Wow.
like I've said multiple times. A lot of people have questioned about that sexual assault charge because it didn't look like there was a sexual assault in that mob. It was just a bunch of animalistic morons hitting a kid, right? But
Right.
Taylor McNally, like I said, she reached down the back of my pants, and no, did I leave there traumatized? No, but at the same time, I hold adults to a higher standard there, and
Mhm.
for a grown woman to go there, punch kid, try to throw him into traffic, and then even go into his pants, I'm gonna press charges there. And
100%.
imagine if it was the other way around, right? If I was a 17-year-old girl and she was a grown man. So yeah, it was totally inappropriate, and I don't tolerate garbage like that. So I had her charged with sexual assault.
And just to be clear to anybody listening, you don't have to be traumatized. You don't have to be traumatized for there to be an assault there. The fact that you weren't traumatized is great news, but to anybody listening, yeah, the fact that you weren't traumatized doesn't change the charge at all. So I'm glad to see that they're going to do something here. Do you have any more involvement with this particular case? Are you going to be a witness? Do you have to come out to Calgary for it? Do you know what your involvement will be?
Yeah, it's looking like I'm going to have to fly out to Calgary again to testify. And they've now arrested another one of the co-BLM leader. I forget what the name is there. But yeah, there was two of them that they've just charged with hate crimes. The hate crimes were dropped on the one of them, and then
Okay.
after they rearrested her for the charges related to me, they reapplied the hate crime charges, but that really hasn't been reported on. But yeah, so there will also be several more arrests take place, is what I've been told by the Calgary police. They're still identifying people and continuing to make arrests, and this happened May 17th. So I'm impressed with their follow through.
Yeah, that is good news. I am happy to hear that they're doing something. So this is the Calgary Police, and then they'll be doing that. This is not the RCMP.
Yeah, no, it's the Calgary police.
Okay, that might be why they're pushing forward with this, because if it was the RCMP, I don't know if they'd be helping as much. Okay, so now that this Calgary thing, now you mentioned that they tried to set you on fire. So what happened there?
Well, it was just like I said, they were burning the Bibles, and they they were trying to light, like they grabbed my polyester shirt and were trying to, I guess, melt it. I don't know what their goal was, but yeah, they were holding the flames over it and had a lighter out too. And I didn't really respond to that one. I knew it wasn't going to work. You don't have to spend too much time in a classroom there to figure that one out. But yeah, they're just really low. All their conduct was just pathetic, and I don't pay it too much attention. My goal was to talk to students and give them the gospel, and that's what we ended up doing. So I was happy at the end of the day.
All right, so there are some students that were happy to receive the gospel and chat with you. And were
Yeah,
any of them, starting from the position of, I don't know why you're here, then you chatted with them and then they get it and then they kind of went on their way? Did you have some
yeah.
success that way?
There were several that then kids. Sure, they're indoctrinated a lot, but they're also fairly reasonable and a little more open to it when they watch a young guy the same age as them come from across the country to their school, um, get attacked by about 40 people, not respond, then get arrested, and while he's being walked to the paddy wagon in cuffs, I'm still giving the kids the gospel and still offering them Bibles and still interacting with them all the way into the paddy wagon. And while I'm sitting there being interrogated, students that are standing outside or walking by, I'm still talking to them, right? And the Calgary police told me to stop acting like a child. I see it the other way around. They weren't doing their jobs. Their conduct was really pathetic at the beginning there. And I went there with one goal: was talk to students and give them the Bible and the gospel. and that's what I was doing. So I didn't really care about where my surroundings were, whether it was a sidewalk, a school, or a paddy wagon. I was happy to do it.
That sounds to me kind of similar to the bouncy castles, like a ridiculous thing for authorities to be upset about. And he's telling, or they're telling you to stop acting like a child when you technically still are, and you're not even doing anything childish. You're handing out the Bible and talking to people. I guess what they wanted you to do is to kowtow to them, to look like a person who's going to be afraid of the authority, so that you can show the rest of the crowd, this is what happens to you if you stand up. And thank you for not giving them that. Thank you for continuing to do, reaching out to people that were willing to talk to you. Now, are you familiar with what happened in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, just a week or so ago with some high school students and a poster?
It's ringing a bell, but I get so many stories, I don't know.
No problem. Yeah, you're probably like me. You got a whole bunch that people send you. This was a Straight and Proud poster they put up. It had a grayscale of a flag, so it wasn't a colored flag; it was a grayscale flag, and they
Like the
encouraged
super
people who
straight
were
flag?
the which one?
Was it the super straight flag?
Is it where it's like grayscale and goes straight across?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, possibly. I didn't realize there was one, but that could be it, because there was a Straight and Proud sign, and a bunch of students signed it. All of those students got pulled into the principal's office, much like you when you were talking about protesting. And then the RCMP showed up with their guns to explain to these children how putting that sign up and signing their names to it was a hate crime. Look, you know this, I know this. If we are living in a world where your sexual identity is supposed to be embraced and you're supposed to have it and you're supposed to be fine with it, why is Straight and Proud not an acceptable identity anymore?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And I get a lot of students that, I know students that have pulled stuff like that, but I'm interested about that one. I might actually have to head down to Saskatchewan, but yeah, that's, I'm happy to see. I know obviously the response is really ridiculous from the RCMP, but I'm happy to see students taking that initiative and just not caring about the stupidity that comes their way. At the end of the day, it's a good story. They got pulled into the office and interrogated about a hate crime because they signed a poster that was just based on basic reality in biology. So I think it's I commend those students for sure. I'd have to look into the story more, but from what the sounds of it, sounds pretty good.
Well, I'm pretty sure by the time you get to your Twitter, a bunch of people will send you those links because it was all over the place. But I feel the exact same way. I have some inspiration and I take some optimism from the fact that there are some students like you and this group who are definitely standing up. But I'm very sad that the identity of being straight and proud is what's being attacked here. Now, let's zoom out a little bit here, Josh, if you don't mind, because you're in the weeds and you're doing the fight. But let's zoom out a little bit. What do you think the agenda's purpose is? Is it to confuse a bunch of children to go to this non-reproductive lifestyle? Or is there something else going on to maybe destroy the country itself? Like, why do you think there's such a push by adults and a lot of people who themselves are likely straight and proud, but they're pushing this other agenda? What do you think might be the reason or the motives behind the agenda itself, the narrative itself?
Well, there's multiple elements to it. I do believe it's a strong attack on Christianity. Any government understands that religion, family, any of these things where there's something to hold on to, when there's something to believe in, it gives the people strength, and that's not what they want. They want the power with the government rather than the people. When you look at Christianity, for instance, Jesus Christ died on a cross. He had his body ripped open. He did this all for us out of love, and we believe that happened. We know that happened. And we watch the martyrs in the New Testament go down, and this is something that inspires us and we know to be true. And that's a powerful sentiment to get behind, and that terrifies the government. I do believe it is an attack on Christianity because they want to weaken the people. I believe it's a attempt to divide the people, and have students or children turned on their parents, and society torn apart as it is right now. I believe that's one of the motives. And then I think the other one, the more simple one, is they're breaking people's will. They're weakening people.
Right.
Everybody knows that there's only male and female. Everybody knows that. But if you can scare people into admitting that there's more than that, or saying that there's more than that, and bending the knee to that woke, crazy ideology that they know they can't get behind. And now they all will be little social justice workers doing that because society told them to. They've now broken that person's dignity and they've broken their will, and you now have a
Right.
weak population. And I think that's the narrative behind this.
Wow. So that's a really good observation. So first you said Christianity, but it might be a religion in general that they're going after because they're trying to get people to change their faith from a god to the government. So maybe they're trying to force people out of faith into government. We've seen the Muslim community stand up on this particular issue as well. So it's not just Christian, but I think you're right that they're going after faith. And I absolutely agree with your second one, the breaking of the will to get them more compliant, because who knows what's coming next and what's coming down the pipeline. If you have an entire generation who just says, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and then move on, then yeah, it's kind of scary what's going to happen. So thank you for recognizing those problems. Now, when it comes to the adults around you, not your parents, but the other ones, do you have some good support with your lawyers, this organization, and it looks like Save Canada as well? So you're working with some organizations and adults to continue with your message and to give you some strength here. Can you go ahead and tell us about some of the organizations you're working with and what you're doing with them?
Well, yeah, I mean, Save Canada is purely a youth-run organization. I have so many trolls just commenting about my adult handlers and who's giving me the money and everything, and it's me and Monty and my
Right.
brother. And we're just a
That's what
couple
I
young
want to
guys
clear
with
up.
conviction.
Yeah, I want to clear that up because a lot
Um,
of people are assuming you have handlers.
yeah. So no, there are no handlers. I'm obviously a young guy. I respect a lot certain people, and I listen to what they have to say, and I get advice from people. But um, I don't just run out and make random decisions on my own. I recognize that I'm 17, and I should probably listen to the counsel of the adults that I know and respect in my life. But
Mhm.
no, I don't have any handlers. At the end of the day, everything's my decision. And I can only look for counsel as every young person should. Um, and yeah, so the other, like I said, Liberty Coalition Canada, I do work with them. They're providing me my legal help, and that's a very open and public relationship right there.
Mhm.
And then yeah, I mean, I've collaborated with quite a few different organizations over the past for different events and stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're our own organization. We make our own decisions, and yeah, there's no outside influences. There's no Illuminati or Freemasons and all
No.
this stuff that I get all the time. And it's just a grassroots organization of a couple of young guys that are fed up with what they're seeing in the world around them right now.
Yeah, and that's the kind that the government fears the most because a genuine grassroots effort has no leader or head to cut off. It's a whole bunch of people coming together. And we also saw that during the protest that they were expecting people like Tom Marazzo to control and lead the entire group of protesters. So yeah, the government has this weird mentality that they believe that all these organizations have a grand leader and a grand mission, but a true grassroots initiative is really the people who are doing it. You're going to have some more hats available because there's a whole bunch of us who are trying to get our hands on hats and stuff like that because we want to support that. You want to kind of update people on when you can expect to have some more of that merch available?
Yeah, I'm hoping, don't hold me accountable for this, but I'm hoping by the end of the week, we will have a big push on hats there. It's been really difficult. We've had several hiccups here trying to get a new provider, and
Sure.
there was an issue with our old store. We were getting notified that people were getting charged not on delivery because of the tax crossing the border. Our hats were being shipped from the U.S. So now we're going to try to change that up, and so we should have a big initiative coming on at the end of the week, and hopefully we'll be able to get those hats out there across the country and paint it red.
Wonderful, and certainly we'll get some out here, and you'll see Alberta painted red as well. And in fact, Chris Dacey is going to send me one of his just so I have it on the set, so we can let people see it every single day. Because yeah, I totally support what you're doing there, and I think you should keep doing it. Now, I titled this one "The Student Godsend," because I do feel, and a lot of people feel this way, that there is some divine intervention going on. Sometimes people show up right at the right time. Sometimes people are able to push a message right at the right time, or stand there as not so much as a disciple, but as somebody to look up to. Do you feel in any way that you're on a mission and you have some divine intervention, or are you just fed up and you just want to keep fighting it, and your faith is just part of who you are?
Well, yeah, my faith has definitely formed who I am as an individual, and I do feel that this is where the Lord wants me right now. We wouldn't be having the success we have right now if it wasn't for God, and we have people praying for us all across the country, and that's really important. And so yeah, that definitely makes a difference. And yeah, I do believe that what we're doing what the Lord wills. And we're spreading the gospel, and that's what we're told in the Great Commission, right? Go ye into the world and give the gospel. And we've targeted young people in a lot of hostile situations, but I think it's still important. It's something that not a whole lot of people are doing in Canada right now, so we're going to keep on.
Are you planning to continue your work? Maybe a pastor, get into that kind of stuff? Are you considering that line of work?
I've considered almost every route at this point. I don't really know what I'm going to end up doing, but yeah, we're certainly going to keep this going as long as possible. I think it's important to do, and I think we're all on the same page here as an organization, and we have no plans of stopping. And
Great.
we're hopefully going to end up expanding and be able to get into the States, since me and my brother are also American citizens, and I used to live
wow.
there actually. So we're going to try to also reach some young people in America as well.
That's wonderful. So do you plan on continuing your studies as well? So when you're finished high school, do you want to do something else as well? Do you want to go get a bachelor's? Do you want to get any post-secondary school? But I know, I'm not committing you. I'm not like your parents saying, hey, what do you want to do? I'm just curious if you want to get into law or something else. Like, is there anything that's piquing your interest because of all of this?
Yeah, I'd considered all of that. And at the same time, I think education nowadays is a bit of a joke. It's designed to create slaves rather than free thinkers, and I mean, education is supposed to be the pave your way into being able to provide for your family, right?
Mhm.
But that's not what we're getting out of these educations at this point. The economy is so bad, and employment is just bad in general, and it's really difficult to be able to have a family or start a family young, especially. That's a value that has been lost because of our economy,
Yeah.
and the values of our society. And that's not something that I want to partake in. I want to be able to get married young, start a family, and I don't think I don't feel an education from post secondary is going to be the way to do that.
Mhm.
It's such a woke system. I doubt I'd even be able to make it through it if I tried. But I haven't given up hope yet. I might take that route. We'll see.
Yeah, well, I'm just mentioning it because you're not wrong. Okay, even the Law Society in Ontario now requires you to take CRT courses, and the first page that because I'm a paralegal, I got my law degree in Ontario, and the first thing that I had to do was check off my race, check off my gender, and then it was telling me how I'm privileged, and I have to acknowledge my privilege. So that's happening in the Law Society of Ontario. It's everywhere, and I don't blame you. One thing I might just suggest, if you ever have time, is maybe consider a paralegal course. It's a lot shorter, but what it does do is it gives you enough of the understanding of the law where even if you're working with lawyers, you might be able to lower your legal bills and be a lot more comfortable with it. Because that's why I took it later in life. Being successful, you're going to find this out if you haven't already. People will come after you just for your success. You didn't do anything wrong, but the fact that you're doing something, people come after you, and you more than me, because there you are, you're out there advocating for the youth out there. All right, so you're not sure what you're going to do yet, but you're definitely going to stick around and do a lot of advocacy with these organizations and potentially others in the United States. Is that what you feel like is going to be your path for the next, say, 5 years or so? Keep working on advocacy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that changing anytime. We're gonna have to continue praying about it and all that, but and it all depends on how much support we can get. I mean, nothing we do is cheap, and we've all had to leave our jobs and our employment in order to do this. And I mean, it's not easy, especially with like traveling the country and all that. So it honestly depends on how everything works out for us. But we as long as people are able to provide, we'll continue to contest all these gender ideology issues, and probably even expand on those issues.
Thank you for doing that. So your first one was mandates. Now you've moved to gender ideology. And is there another one that you're targeting, or you're just going to take these problems as they come?
Well, yeah, I think it's kind of something we have to play by ear. But I mean, I'm going to look at the issues that are affecting young people, right? I mean, there's a lot of issues in the world, but I feel I've specifically am passionate about working with young people, and I've seen the effect it has on them. And I don't think anybody can quite understand our generation as well as somebody who's in it, right? So
Mhm.
that's definitely the area I want to focus on, and that's what we've been doing so far, and probably will continue.
Now, I assume I know your answer to this next question, but and by the way, if you don't feel comfortable answering this, just say no comment. But what is your position on abortion and maids?
Yeah, I believe abortion is wrong. I think it's murder, and I believe MAID is definitely murder. I mean, you look at all of them, you're taking an innocent human life, right? And
Mhm.
it's I'm shocked that our nation has led the way in decriminalizing that, and now even making it a government funded initiative.
Yeah, you're on the pulse of that one. So that's another issue I think a lot of young people should be paying attention to, which is we have late term abortion for any reason, anytime. And we also have genetic based abortion and we have gender based abortion. So if you don't want a girl, you don't have to have one. That's what Canada allows. And we do a lot of those, 100 a year. And that's, well, 2 a week. That's way too many. So anything that you can maybe, uh, bring up with the youth as well. I think that's another good one. And then maids, as you probably understand, in March, they were trying to pass it with mature minors, which is a new term, which means the government determined that you're smart enough and intelligent enough to decide to end your life. So they give you that pass without parental consent. So those are a couple of issues where I think the government's directly targeting even the youth still on those. And these are the end of life issues. So yeah, I'd certainly also get behind you on any protesting and advocacy around those items as well.
Yeah, I'd certainly be interested to see what is considered a mature minor, because that's kind of what I'm fighting in the Ontario Court of Appeal right now. I've declared myself a mature minor. We've sworn affidavits and all that, and I'm trying to be able to appeal these issues on my own. If me, I'm a guy that's on talk shows nonstop. I travel the country nonstop. I don't live at home. I provide for myself,
Hmm.
and they won't accept me as a mature minor. But
Just
like we run a national organization that is making international news, and they won't recognize me as a mature minor. So I'd be interested to see what it takes to be given the right to kill yourself.
oh, well, tell them you're depressed or you feel like you're in the wrong body, and they will advance that very quickly for you, and you'll become a mature minor. Um, it's kind of weird how the system is like that. If you go and tell them something crazy, like I am a different sex, they'll say, okay, well, we think you're mature enough to go ahead and end yourself or have the operation. Um, we're in a very weird world. Now, you're a little too young to maybe know this, but 40 years or so ago, we kind of changed our system where it used to be parental-led children's involvement to the child is taking over and telling parents what it is. So, for example, this whole transgender thing, it's really taking the child's word on what they say they are and then going ahead and doing things with that. Where, as you understand, the proper dynamic between parent-child is the child is a student and they're learning from the parent. They're not the source of reality. It's the other way around. Now, we saw this switch happening in the 80s when the schools were encouraging students to tell on their parents when they're getting disciplined at home and if they're getting a spanking and that kind of stuff. So in my generation, what we were indoctrinated with was to be rats and turn on your parents and go towards the state and not the parent when it came to anything that you wanted. Now they've taken it another step in your generation where you can get medical procedures and you can make medical decisions and life-ending decisions on that. Do you think we have a chance of stopping this trend? Do you think that Save Canada might one day say, all right, we did it. We saved Canada, so we can all go home and do something else now? Or do you think this is just the age-old battle of evil versus good, and we're just the current iteration of that, and we just have to, hold our ground and try and come out of this war and pass it on to the next generation? So in other words, I'm asking you, is Save Canada a lifelong thing, or is Save Canada hopefully going to end one day because you do save Canada?
Well, I mean, I don't believe it'll be me that saves Canada. It's going to take a whole lot more than that. And there's a quote I first heard, I just recently heard, and it was in order to get this nation back up on its feet, first we have to get on our knees, right? And it's going to be God that saves Canada. We can only do our best and allow Him to use us in this initiative. But yeah, I think there's always going to be an ongoing battle between good and evil, and we can only do our best to fight it and stand up for what's right and be a light in a dark world.
That's a great way to put it. And you're right. Sometimes we have to get on our knees to appreciate where we are, so we stand up and fight back. And a lot of people are saying that we might be there or we're getting close to there. We were feeling that as soon as they went after the children and parents started to stand up, we might actually get some wins here. And I think that might be happening. Now, are you getting any indicators that there's parents that are going to start going into the school boards, running for elections, start changing the school boards? And then what about you? When you get a little bit older, are you thinking about getting into boards or even political life? Because that's a way for you to bring some more attention and actually get into the policy making of side of things. Has that also crossed your mind for maybe the future?
Yeah, I mean, I've considered it. I thought about running. I'm probably, depending on when the next federal election happens, I'd probably actually be old enough to run as a candidate in the federal election. And then, so yeah, I mean, it's not something that's far away from me, but I also don't know if that's the route I want to take. I hate politics. I think it's a pretty dirty game. Well, I know it's a pretty dirty game, and I don't know. I think I do agree it is important that we get actual God-fearing people inside these boards, and all the municipal level is so important, and we often forget that. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot more parents get interested in it, and I think on June 9th we discovered or we awoke a sleeping giant, which is the Muslim community, which have now been showing up all across the country, and all across the world actually since that date. I've seen protests coming out from everywhere, and this wasn't happening before. They heard about it literally they heard about it on June 8th and showed up on June 9th. Yeah, that was certainly encouraging to see a lot of families there. I mean, there's been a I would say it's a false narrative that there is a unity throughout the religions right now in the country. I don't believe that to be true. Yes, we're working together against one common goal, and I think that's incredibly important and powerful. But we also have to remember that we don't serve the same God. I believe there is only one God. I know there's only one God, and anything else is a idol. I think we have to just remember that and be careful about that we don't blur the line between our religions, and that we still recognize and respect the God we serve. So yeah, I think it's certainly important, and it's powerful to see this movement unfolding, and there's other communities getting involved. We even saw Jews, Muslims, and Christians coming together at these protests, and that's not something you see on near every day. So yeah, we're certainly seeing a turning point here, and parents and families are getting much more involved all across the country.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. Parents and families. So it doesn't even matter about religion. The fact that the Muslim religion is showing up is because they're very strong on their family, and they absolutely protect their children to the death. It's very, very important to them, their family values, as with most families, right? So it's almost like we're all meshing over children and saving our children for real. So that's good to see. And people are able to put their other issues aside, and focus on the children. So that's great to see. And I think you're right. They didn't anticipate such a large organization or group to wake up and say, yeah, we're going to get involved too. So what I saw in those pictures was a whole bunch of parents that cared about their children, and they also had various religious gear on. So that's what I saw, and that made me happy, because we absolutely, one day you're going to be a parent, and God will certainly bless you that way. And I believe you're on the right track, because you want to be a young parent. So very cool with that. And once you become a parent, you're going to fully understand how you would put your life down for your child. And it sounds like you might even do that for your country already. So wow, well done there on that one, Josh. Now, what do you have planned over the next couple of weeks, and how can people support you? So the first, what are you doing for the next couple of weeks, and then how can people support you?
Yeah, so the summer is kind of wide open right now. We do plan to be right back on the schools starting September. I think it's important we keep that fire going, and we had a strong finish to the school year here. But yeah, we'll be right back at things in September. But I think right now we're actually going to be trying to get into the States a bit over the summer and make some connections there. And then we'll also, we do have a couple events planned. I have a couple speaking engagements and whatnot. And I think I'll be in a couple different provinces throughout the summer. But yeah, well, who knows what the future holds? It's often quite last minute when we decide these things, and we hear from students pretty last minute as well. So yeah, but yeah, you can, like, I see you got my Twitter up there. And you can check that. I always post my updates there. I am on other platforms as well, but Twitter is my main one. So yeah, feel free to follow there. And we will be posting our new website and new store and everything there. So it should be about a week's time.
That's wonderful. So yeah, we'll also propagate all your stuff. So when your hats are available, we'll tweet it out. Just hit me up on the DM. We'll definitely get that stuff out. And I have a bit of a network now where we can propagate stuff. So please reach out, and I'll get you on there as well. We do have some comments. So if you don't mind, I'll take you through some comments from people. Hannah says, your parents must be so proud of you, Josh. Is that an understatement of the year? Certainly they support you, but what is dinner like with your family when you can sit down with them? Is it all about what you're working on, or they just want to treat you like they're their kid and just get back to a normal family life?
Well, yeah, it's certainly hard to to embrace the normalcy of a regular family life at this point, right? Both my parents have been placed on leave and under investigation. We're all across the country between me and my brother, and yeah, so it is pretty wild. It's pretty hectic. I don't actually get to see my family a whole lot, but they have obviously taken quite a serious fall here, and that needs to be recognized by the nation. These typical communists are coming after the families too, and so I'm happy to have my parents in my corner here, and they recognize the truth and the fullness of it, and they aren't going to back down.
And I bet you have a bunch of mothers coming up to you, introducing their daughter to you. You might have some of that happening in the next little bit. Hey, have you met Cindy or Stacy, right?
Yeah, that happens for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't have any daughters, but if I have one, I would reach out to you. You're an amazing young man there, Josh. So we have a couple more comments here. A lot of people love you. So Schmidt House Podcast, by the way, if you have some availability, I'm going to connect you with this guy. He's another very good interview that you may have. So I'll pass that to you behind the scenes. But Josh, Zach says, Josh is a person who the people of his generation should look up to. Many adults don't have the courage to do what he has done. Zach, you're 100% right. In fact, very little, even leaders have it, what it takes that Josh is doing. So yeah, so there's adults, and this is a very nice gentleman, and he's looking up to you. Does that feel weird for you to have adults say to you, hey, you're inspiring. I'm very proud that your generation is doing something. Does that feel weird to you?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, it takes some adjusting too. And I mean, it was a bit overwhelming when I was going on Tucker. There's some big shows, and then I'd go to an actual in-person engagement, and I would be there for like 3-4 hours. hungry, waiting to go get dinner or whatever, and would just be shaking hands and whatnot. So like it hits you at first. You kind of get used to it, but it also is an encouragement to see that happening all across the country, and that people are watching, people are listening, and they're willing to hear the truth, and they're willing to come out and support it.
How do you keep yourself grounded? Because quite frankly, most kids, or not kids, you're not a kid, most young adults your age, they're flipping burgers or making blizzards. But here you are, have international attention and changing the world through fighting an indoctrination agenda. So how do you keep yourself grounded so that you don't, float away and get, your ego or anything get inflated?
Yeah, well, I mean, ego is the problem we see in my generation a lot, and it's something we got to put aside and not embrace too much, because it's dangerous and it'll take you down. And pride is a sin. If you've learned anything from our movement, pride is a sin, and we're not gonna embrace it. It's when you get to see behind the scenes, and you know yourself, and you know your strengths and your weaknesses. And you know where your strength is coming from. There's not a whole lot of pride in the self there. It's more just conviction and encouragement across the country, and you just have to take it, move on, and recognize that it's going to be like that for a bit, and just not get it to your head, and stay a small organization. We keep everything small. We started small. I have spent my fair share of time flipping burgers and doing all that sort of stuff, and believe it or not, I still am employed. Haven't worked since February, but I still do have a job. So I understand where these people are coming from, and they're the people I want to reach. So I'm not gonna stick my chin up above them and pretend I'm more than them, because I'm really not.
No, I've been paying close attention to the way you answered and the things you say. You're definitely putting people before you, and you can see that as you're walking just down the sidewalk, and these people don't like you, but you're going to stand and hold your presence, which is amazing. Anika Reeves says, "Thank you, Josh." So you have a lot of support out there. Won't take the chip. Don't know what his real name is, or she, but won't take the chip. Such a difference listening to an intelligent, well-spoken young man with morals compared to the crap on Netflix, Twitter, or in actual life. Great interview. You know what? There's a lot of people that think this exact way. It's very refreshing to hear from people like you and Students Against Mandates, and to see that there's another generation who's standing up and fighting for us. So there's a lot of optimism amongst people like me, and won't take the chip here, that maybe Canada isn't going to be in good hands. Maybe there's another generation there that's a little bit smarter than the one right before you, but you'll be able to kind of clean things up a bit. So thank you for that. Anonymous says, shout out to Josh. Anonymous, I'm not sure how we can say shout out to Josh without knowing who you are, but Anonymous says it. I don't know if it's that organization with the funny masks or just somebody that's keeping their identity, but there's a shout out there for you there, Josh. Billy Ray says, hi, Jason, keep up the great work, Josh. So hi, Jason, keep up the great work, Josh. So you're getting support from Billy Ray as well. Patriot Cats says, ask Josh if he plans to preach morals to young people. They need it. I think he covered that. But let's go ahead and let Patriot Cats know what your answer is to that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to. I think our generation has lost its moral compass in all the degeneracy and filth, and it's like we have every fleshly pleasure at our fingertips, and whether it be video games, pornography, social media, entertainment, it's filth. It's a cesspool. And it's important that I think young people maintain discipline, self-discipline, self-respect, and a relationship with the Creator, and understand that all those momentary pleasures are going to come back to bite you if you do not control them and contain them.
Yeah, it's amazing how you put it that way, because even the oral pleasure of food, if you give into that, you're going to gain weight. The physical pleasure of sexuality, if you give into that, you can have some problems, disease, unwanted pregnancy, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's wonderful that you're doing that. And we don't see that enough. And I think you're right. Hannah says here, great show, Jason. Thanks, Josh. Keep up the great work or good work, and God bless all. So for Hannah and me and people like you, God bless is definitely where we put our faith as well and get our strength as well. I have a fox in my yard, and I'm looking right at it, and I have chickens beside me or behind me, so I'm keeping an eye on this little guy. And by the way, we feed the foxes well around here, so they got full bellies. And then we got another anonymous shout out to Freedom. So not just Josh, but shout out to Freedom. And then Steve says, "Save Canada is effectively saving Canada one day at a time." I like this. I like this a lot. So you're working with people like Chris Dacey, and who else? Who else is working with Save Canada that you can mention?
Well, yeah, we've got several different helpers there. I mean, Chris Dacey has been very helpful with all his videography work, and he's always there to cover everything. He's a dedicated guy. I would encourage you guys to go take a look at what he's doing, Dacey Media. I mean, yeah, there's another guy that has dedicated his life to the cause, and it's not in as public. Well, it's quite public, but he's more so just behind the scenes doing what he's doing, and he's not asking for a whole lot for it, and he's just trying to get by while helping us on our journey. So yeah, I'd encourage go check out his profile and see what you can do to support him.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have him on July 11th. So he'll be on right after Alex Cabana. So we have an entire Advocates Week. So I'll just let you know. So July 10th is Alex Cabana because he's a veteran advocate. So he's a veteran himself, and he advocates for veterans. We have Chris Dacey, which I called titled Street Advocate, because he's all over the streets doing his thing, capturing video and sharing it. And then on Thursday, the 13th, I have Beth Ann Nodwell and Stacey Cotter. You know them? Oh yeah, you were with Beth Ann just on Saturday night. Yeah. That's how I got to interview. Yeah. So thank you to Beth Ann, by the way, if you're watching. I appreciate that. So we'll have them on the 13th. And then on the 14th, we have a musical advocate, which is Greg Arcade. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah. I've seen some of the stuff on Twitter there. I believe we've met as well.
Yeah, so stay tuned to those. There's an entire good week of advocates just like you. And it's a small world. Are you finding that there's like a small grouping of people who are doing this freedom fighting, and we kind of all getting to know each other now?
Yeah, you come around and see the same faces a lot, which it is a small world, and we're trying to make it bigger. I want to see a lot more new faces, a lot of younger faces, and I think we will soon.
Right. Now I have four more little questions here or comments, and then I'll let you wrap up. I can tell that it's time to go and have your lunch, and me as well. So I appreciate you taking that time. Carol says, Carolyn League. Thank you, Josh. Love you. Stay safe. Yeah, please do stay safe. People do want to hurt you. They want to burn you. They're putting their hands in your pants. They're hitting you. They're taking your hat. They're pulling on your crucifix, trying to choke you. Like, dude, you're going through quite a bit. So really stay safe out there as well. Connie Harry Hay says, this young man is so amazing. His level of maturity and understanding is so refreshing. She's clearly talking about you because you're the only young man on this screen. But yeah, you're getting comments like that out of Connie as well. Can people write you? Do you have a place where they can send you letters and cards and stuff like that?
Yes, we don't have a mailing address yet. We're trying to work something out for that, but we have our public email address is savecanada.team@gmail.com. So we'll be getting new stuff as well with the website. But like I said, I'll make sure all that's updated and all that info is publicly available.
Okay, cool. Do you mind if for now I can give my PO box and then I can forward it to you when you have something to forward to? Because if people want to send you a card or a little letter or something, they can send it.
Sure, yeah, that'd be great.
All right, so PO box 886, Breton, Alberta, Tango 0 Charlie 0 Papa 0. You can find it on my website as well at yellowhead.vote at the bottom. Anything you send that says Josh or Save Canada or anything like that, I won't open, but I will forward it off to you guys when you're ready for that. Because I know there's a lot of people that like to write and send in fan art and that kind of stuff. So if any of that shows up, I'll send it right to you. Azario says, thank you, Josh, for being an outstanding man with principles and values that you are 100% committed to. Stay true, keep being humble, and you'll succeed. Yeah, Azario, I 100% agree with that. And you're the type of gentleman that I will expose my kids to. We got Mr. Beast out there with his buddy, but we need more people like you. Anika Reeves says, any thoughts on how Sam Osterhoff could help? Do you know that name?
It sounds familiar, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't put a
I don't-
face to that.
No, I don't know that name either. But, well, we got it out there. And I guess the quick answer is unknown. We don't know who that is. Would you consider doing podcasting and maybe doing a weekly something to keep your message out there, in the digital world as well?
Yeah, actually, we had a studio and everything. We're about to launch a podcast for the three of us there. Things got even more busy, and I mean, it's definitely something I want to get started in the future, but I don't know when we'll get around to that. But yeah, we are ready to launch whenever we decide to do it.
Though that's exciting. So do keep us posted on that. We'll get your links out and stuff like that. Highly encourage it. It's a good way to stay connected. And maybe you can do some sort of talk show where, the youth can come in and, say and talk to you and get interactions with you. But yeah, we would watch that. So I would encourage that as well. Well, that's the end of my questions, but I'm happy to keep chatting with you a little bit longer to let you get some more messages out and maybe speak directly to first the youth and then maybe Canada's leaders, because I think they need to hear from you as well. This could be the MPs out there. This could be mayors. This could be premiers. So first, maybe say something to the youth, and then let's have a little chat to the leaders of our country.
Well, yeah, I mean, to youth, it's time we recognize that we're at a point in our society and our culture where nobody cares. Like we're in a battle, and nobody cares about the small personal issues that are going to come your way. We're growing up in a society that has embraced fleshly pleasure, and that turns into depression and a whole lot of other issues in your life. And that's why I think it's so important that we maintain self-discipline and work on ourselves and recognize the gospel and return for salvation, because that's really the only way through here. And I believe we are pilgrims on this earth, and we've got to do our best to bring people to Christ while we're here. So we got to remember where our goals are at, and it's not necessarily that high school diploma or that post-secondary education. Our goals are much higher than that. And we have a higher purpose, and we need to stay true to our values and hold our ground here, because that's not something that's looked upon too kindly in our society. So it's time to step up the game and get involved and be vocal and put away fear. As far as the leaders of our nation go, I think they ought to be ashamed of themselves. They've doomed our generation. They've doomed the nation. They're pathetic tyrants in most cases, or they're just pathetic cowards. And God's got a special place for cowards. I have no respect for it at all. And if you want to take on a role of leadership in our nation, you better be willing and ready to face the consequences of that, and take the stance that is necessary. So I think as a nation, we need to stop supporting politicians that refuse to stand for us, and that includes this whole new Pierre Poilievre trend and everybody getting on the Conservative Party wagon. I think they're all a bunch of useless beta soy boys. They've done nothing. They've done nothing for the Canadian people. They talk about the price of milk, and that's about it. What I often say is, if a politician, somebody that is wishing to lead the nation, will not stand up for teenage girls and their safety and their security and their privacy when addressed about it and spoken to about it, who are they going to stand up for? They're cowards. I think that this issue that I've been working on has really exposed the height of their cowardice, and we need to stop supporting them and put in leaders that are going to stand up for us and stand up for the morality and what is right.
God bless you. Do you mind? Could you kind of lead us in a little closing prayer?
Sure. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, please do.
Dear Lord, thank you for everything you've done for us in this movement. I thank you for the progress we've had, and I thank you for this opportunity to get on this show. And I pray that Jason here would have a lot more coming up with other podcasts and be able to get his word out there, and that we'd all take part in this in some in some way or another, and that we'd all just have our eyes on you and on the truth, and be lights in a dark world. Ask these things in your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And thank you for the prayers. And I've been very blessed, and I can feel his presence all the time as I'm doing this. Even you getting together with Beth Ann, and then she reached out, and then what? Bada boom, bada bang, you found some time. Thank you so much. God bless you, Josh. And,
Thank you.
you know, we're out there. Give me those links. We'll get you some support. We'll sell some hats. We'll send you some letters. But you keep it up. Thank you very much for your
Thank
time
you.
today.
Appreciate it, eh?
Yeah. God bless, buddy.
God bless.
Hey, folks, what do you think about that? What a young man. What a young man. We didn't have many of those when I was growing up because we didn't really need them. We had some issues, but not like this. Not like this, where the in danger within the own school. Look, we heard him. They haven't even expelled him because why? They still want the money. They still want to, get the money in for him as a student. Like, they're keeping him in limbo, like in purgatory on education. This is ridiculous. And we heard about adults bullying him as teachers, as principals, as people on the street. We heard about a young lady who's now been charged. Well, not a young lady. It's just I don't even want to mention her name, but she puts her hand in his. Come on. This is exactly the type of people we need leading the charge. This is exactly the type of people our youth should be following. There's no doubt in my mind that I'm incredibly proud of this gentleman, and I'm very humbled and privileged to have been able to spend almost 2 hours with him. He was standing out there. He didn't shy away from a single question. He told us everything that we asked, and he inspired me a lot more to keep up what I'm doing here. Because getting access to somebody like him and being able to share his message, this is what I'm trying to do. I want to make sure that we can have people that want to tell us the way it is, two genders, two sexes, what they're doing, standing up against oppression from my education system, and then how they're going to accomplish it. Peaceful protest, handing out Bibles, and having conversations. Amazing. Prove me wrong, folks. If this isn't one of the best of our next generation, if this doesn't give you hope that Canada will be in good hands, and yeah, I know, Josh, you said politics is crummy and stuff like that, but you could probably get behind some candidates. Maybe you don't have to run, but yeah, if you're going to get behind like a Leslie Lewis or someone else who's religious and they're out there for the fight, that'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of cool. He certainly won't get behind the CPP. Did I say something? No, CPC. Wow, Freudian slip there, isn't it? Liberals or NDP, but no, maybe PPC might have some stuff because they're certainly working on the same issues that he is as well. Well, folks, thank you very much for showing up for this spontaneous episode. But as you heard from him, he is super, super busy. I've been trying to get him on for a few weeks, and then as luck would have it, divine intervention, I stopped my stream early. Beth Ann reached out to me. She said, I have Josh and some other people here. And that's when I said, hey, can we get Josh on? And speaking of that, I'll let you know at the next break, at the next video. But I also got the Bikers Church, Rob and Melissa. So they'll be joining me on Saturday. McKee, I think is their last name, Rob and Melissa. They'll be saving us. I saw Save Canada and that hit my head. They'll be joining us on the 8th. So Saturday the 8th, there's going to be an extra special episode because I also got put in contact with them on Saturday night and I booked them. So I'll be releasing more information on that and giving you the update on the very next episode, which is in 4 hours. So in 4 hours, I'll be back on here with Tracy Wilson from the Canadian Coalition of Firearm Rights. And we're going to be talking about Bill 21. We're going to be talking about Trudeau passing handgun orders, and not even laws, and how he's dealing with things. He's circumventing the House on stuff. We'll be talking about what the CCFR are doing when it comes to fighting back for us. And then we'll also be talking about why they're not doing more. The conservative side of things, they definitely want to see more happen. Not they're the presser for it, but I'm curious on what they have planned going forward and if they're going to be taking a little bit larger steps, and if not, why. So we're going to get a good education on what the CCFR does. We're going to really get into into Bill C-21 so we can understand it more. And we'll get into all the more recent stuff. We might even touch about the Coots guns a bit. Try not to, I got lots to talk to her about, but we might talk a little bit about the Coots gun. But we definitely have a lot about the Coots guns tomorrow. So I do have a gun expert confirmed coming tomorrow. So if you're going to join us tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Mountain Time, 8 a.m. Eastern, we'll continue with the Coots 4 coverage, and we'll have a gun expert on. So I'm getting a gun crash course tonight. I'm going to learn as much as I can about the C21, and I'll be using that throughout the rest of this Coots stuff. So I hope you tune in and check that out, because Tracy has given up her time, and it looks like it's going to be an excellent episode. So once again, thank you all for showing up in this mid-afternoon episode, and thank you very much to Josh and the rest of his team. You guys are very, very inspirational. And before I sign off, I do see some more comments, because I'm working everything today. Padge is in town. Again, this wasn't a scheduled meeting, but we're going to bring it to you. Yender says, God explained what you will receive if you want a king and not want God as king. Yep. Pick up your scriptures, Yender. You're absolutely right. If you turn false idols, you're looking at something else as your idol, or you're turning yourself into an idol, pride, you have problems. You will have lots of problems. And it's odd how these people are not understanding when they're screaming and yelling about how horrible their life is, identity this, identity that, how they haven't realized that maybe that is their problem, the fact that they don't have a faith and they don't have answers. There's a lot of answers in scripture, so maybe that's where they should be looking. And I think this is what Josh understands completely, because this is what he's handing out and sharing with people. I am so, so pleased that he's doing that. A lot of you joined us for the prayer. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. Thank you. Amen from Prairie. Thank you. Anonymous. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Love you. Thanks again. Hey, Carol, come back 1,000 times all the time. We got a whole bunch of people coming up, and I think God is good. God is great. And he's helping me find who I should reach. I'm getting lots of yeses. It's incredible at how many yeses I get. Steve says, great insight on the young Josh. He's an amazing young man. And I'm glad we got to learn who the gentleman is under that red hat. Because look, we could have talked about just his protests. We could have talked about the incidents that he went through and just left it at that. But I wanted to know about his upbringing, homeschool till grade 7, public school for a bit, went over to Catholic school because the public school was getting wonky, and then found that the Catholic school was just as wonky, or if not worse. So I'm very, very pleased that he shared all that with us. Connie says, this young man is so amazing. His level of maturity and understanding is so refreshing. I felt the same way, Connie. And this is why I love speaking to people like him and Lee Vossen. So you can go check on my Twitter and YouTube and everywhere else. There's an interview with Lee Vossen. Actually, I have two. One last year with her and Brendan, and then one this year to kind of catch up after a year. So if you are inspired by students who are working really hard against the tyrannical government and their education system, their community, and even their peers, people like Josh and Lee Vossen are doing that in spades. Jeanette says, what a wonderful young man. He is. How many of you with daughters are trying to get in touch with him now? I mean, they're saying, look, he wants to have a family. He wants to start young. I bet a whole bunch of you are trying to get a hold of him. I don't blame you. Steve says, shout out to Beth Ann. Isn't she awesome? She's like one of my new favorite people, because when I chat with her, it's just fun. It's like an old friend. And when I got on the phone with her, again, it was like we're just old friends and we're just chatty. Really looking forward to that interview, and that will be on the 13th of July. So Thursday, the 13th of July. Beth Ann's on with Stacy Cotter. I think I'm saying her name right, Cotter. But yeah, very, very excited about that. Steve says, you are needed and welcome, Jason. Oh, thank you, Steve. Thank you. I guess you're part of the community, and I've just been around for almost on 2 months, in a couple of weeks, so a month and a half I've been doing this, Steve. Well, the new iteration. I did start last year to cover the POEC, but yeah, we're doing this now. Well, folks, we're just about at the 2-hour mark. I certainly want to go eat, and I got to get ready for Tracy Wilson. Yeah, why am I'm having a bad day today with names. There's just so many of them. Yeah, Tracy Wilson, Canadian Constitution of Firearm Rights. So you'll see her at 4 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Eastern. And that'll be another great, if you're coming to understand what the laws are in Canada around gun rights and why we should be trying to get rid of them and where our rights really come from, God, this is the episode for you. So go ahead and mark your calendars and come and join me on that one. Well, folks, we might be a couple minutes early here, but I want to let you get back to your afternoon, and I certainly want to get back to my afternoon because I got some prep to do. So on that note, thank you all very much. This was a wonderful interview. God-given. I think Josh is God-sent. And I do believe that. I do believe God has lots of designs on what's going on here, and we're going through all of this for a reason, and it could be just to come out much stronger on the other end. So thank you very much, Josh, to the people that are working with you, the other students that are working with you, and the organizations who are picking up some of that slack on the legal front. Thank you guys for doing that. So have yourself a great afternoon. I love you all. And God bless.